House has before it Senate Bill 2310, which has been read. Mr. Chief Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, Senate Bill 2310 with House amendments introduced by Senator Lukey. Senate Bill 2310 is a bill for an act to amend and reenact subsections 4 and 6 of Section 39-08-13 of the North Dakota Century Code relating to accident report forms and to declare an emergency. Mr. Speaker, your Transportation Committee recommends amendments which were passed on the previous sixth order. When so amended and engrossed recommends do not pass on Senate Bill 2310 by a vote of 9 yeas, 4 nays, 1 absent, and 0 not voting. Mr. Speaker.
Representative Franzwag.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and members of the Assembly, your Committee on Transportation recommends a do not pass on Senate Bill 2310 relating to accident report forms. Senate Bill 2310 addresses the issue of the information contained in a crash report and remaining as an exempt record under Section 44-04-17.1. Recently, requests for crash report information have been made to the DOT asking for reports for all crashes that have occurred statewide. In one case, 5 years of data was being requested. Additionally, the DOT had received a request for all crashes within a 1 month period, which has now turned into a reoccurring weekly request of all injury and fatal crashes. In response to these types of requests being made, the DOT requested an Attorney General's opinion to determine what information is protected. The reasoning behind the request focused on several key factors. Number one, to ensure that the DOT as an agency was not violating statute by releasing the information. Number two, concerns regarding potential identity theft of persons involved in crashes. And number three, clarification of legislative intent as to whether this type of information should be considered open record. The Attorney General's opinion affirmed that under current statute, the information being requested is open record and must be released. After the opinion, and given the growing problem of identity theft, the DOT wanted to introduce this topic to the legislative body to revisit the issue of open records in this instance. Mr. Speaker, your Transportation Committee spent considerable time on this issue and determined that information in the crash report is public, with the exception of the portion of the report that provides the law enforcement officer's opinion. That portion of the report is confidential and not subject to disclosure. Therefore, by a vote of 9 yea, 4 nay, and 1 absent, your Transportation Committee recommends a do not pass on Senate Bill 2310, keeping the information open to public inspection. We urge this Assembly to do the same. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any discussion? Representative Owens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the Assembly, first off, I'd like to thank the representative. He explained the bill very well and what we went through in discussing it. And the bill came to us from the Senate locking down the report, locking down all the information. It wasn't releasing everything, and it was trying to lock down everything. And what we did was we amended the bill in the interest of the people who were involved in the accident and whose names are on the accident report and all of their personal information, to protect that personal information and to limit it to those people that were in the accident, to their insurance agencies, and to their insurance service providers. Just lock it down there, leaving, I might add, the name of the individual and the city they're from open for the newspapers to notify the public of what transpired. Additionally, there's another law in code in the 36th section that requires our law enforcement to release the name once the relatives have been notified and or 24 hours has expired, whichever occurs first. The committee voted do not pass to release this information, so it's open for everybody based on the fact that there's other instances where we provide this information daily as individuals. I'm asking you to reconsider the committee's recommendation for the simple fact. There's two different facts here. It's different when the individual provides the information somewhere rather than the state providing personal information out. And quite frankly, I believe if you vote no on this bill, we're announcing to the world, as far as identity theft, that North Dakota is open for business for $2 a report. Come get information on our people when they're most vulnerable right after an accident and steal their identity. So I'm asking for a yes vote on this bill. Thank you.
Representative Ruby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the Assembly. The amendment that we put on the bill makes it better. There were some real concerns from not only the Newspaper Association but also the insurance companies and some of the insurance service providers that they wouldn't be able to get the information they need for their duties. So the amendment certainly made it better. They feel a little better about it. But one thing I think I'll defend the majority of the committee. The reason that we gave it the do not pass is this information has been open to the public for many years, and we haven't heard of any instances where any of this information has been used for identity theft. It's just that what DOT had an issue with is that somebody requested large sums of this information. It was a law firm, and they basically were probably using it to do some phishing for some work. Now, the only reason DOT had an issue with it is they weren't sure the intentions or whether they approved of the intentions of the information. They didn't really have a problem releasing the information because they've done it for a long time. There is a $2 per page charge for any information that they give. What the bill doesn't do is solve one of their problems. The biggest problem with that is that there was an order for bulk request of the information. And so that was the main issue, is that they were getting this bulk order plus an ongoing weekly request for updated records. So what we did was we did give it the do not pass, mainly because the information has been open for a long time. It hasn't been an issue, but it was because of somebody not being sure of what the intentions of the requester of the information was that they asked for this bill to be brought to us. So I don't think, we're not going to lock anything up too tough if this does pass, but I think overall the committee really believed that the information is not being misused, and it's not the type of information that can actually get into your bank accounts and open up an identity for yourself. So with that, I would ask that the committee's recommendation be upheld and vote red. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Representative Casper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would Representative Owens yield to a question?
Representative Owens would yield to a question.
I'll be happy to, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Casper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Owens, if this bill were to pass, what information would be protected, and would the insurance companies ever have a problem with getting the information they need for adjudicating a claim or any of the areas that they would want to have?
Representative Owens.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Casper, members of the Assembly, the information that is called for under the bill right now that would be protected is the driver identification number, the actual street address of the party, the telephone number, which usually in an accident is the cell phone number of the individual, but not always, the insurance company's name and the policy number for that particular party, and their date of birth. Now, you can do amazing things with somebody's name, address, and a date of birth. But to answer your question specifically, the insurance company, though, or a legal representative or the agent of the insurance company would still have access to that information, just not the general public or the newspapers or anyone else. They could still get the information under sunshine laws, under open records law, on the accident. They just couldn't get the personal information. The insurance companies, however, as long as they're somehow connected to the parties involved in the accident, could get that information, not only for that accident, but for continuing fraud investigation and fraud research.
May I continue, Mr. Speaker?
You may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Representative Owens. Members of the Assembly, identity fraud is continuing to be a bigger and bigger issue. Financial privacy is important. Information like this is important. There are entities out there that will mine various lists and gather information from 2 or 3 sources, and all of a sudden your identity is gone. It appears to me that the only bad thing about this bill is that there may be some entities that want it that aren't going to get it, and we don't want them to have it. The good thing is we begin to lock up some of the information that maybe the public should not have. So I'd hope that we would give some green votes to this bill.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the House has before it for final consideration Senate Bill 2310. The clerk will open the key and you may record your vote. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? key will be closed. The clerk will take the record. The final vote shows 53 yea, 40 nay, 1 absent, not voting. Senate Bill 2310 passed. The emergency clause failed. Continuing